What made you lose respect for someone? My birth mother just started talking about absolutely bonkers conspiracy theories regarding our current political world, deliberately ambiguous here about which side of the aisle to not start an argument. Anyone who refuses to admit they're wrong. I used to have the same problem, but holy shit, do you look stupid and arrogant when you double down instead of saying oh my mistake, thanks. Somewhat related, people who won't take responsibility for anything, or they blame everyone else for anything that happens to them. It's exhausting, I can't waste my time with that anymore. Went out on a date with this guy who ordered an appetizer platter for us to share. The bill came out for like $19 something and he paid with a $20 gift card. And he didn't want to tip the waiter even though we had stayed at the restaurant for over 2 hours. I went ahead and got my debit card out and told the waiter to charge my card. I left her a $20 tip. I blocked him after that. My ex-roommate and I never really got along. You can see some of my complaints about him in my post history, but basically he was manipulative, used my shit without asking, refused to speak like an adult, stole money from us, and kept the place a fucking wreck. Also, when we were trying to move the fuck out of the place, he insisted that his brand new girlfriend move her shit in before we could get out, which made it more difficult. That night I wanted to talk to him like an adult about my concerns. Earlier that day he had sent a text to my boyfriend calling me all sorts of names and saying stuff like she's a worse version of your mother etc. This is because I was angry with him for 1, not paying bills on time, 2, not wanting to live in a dirty trap house. I outlined my concerns to him as calmly as I could. He stood there with a smug bullshit smile on his face and his arms crossed and said in the nicest way possible, I really don't give a shit, and then only spoke to my boyfriend saying stuff like well I respect you, boyfriend /. At that point I knew it was a futile effort on my part to talk some sense into this 30-year-old man-child. I told him I would never speak to him again. I haven't and I plan to keep that streak going. My brother is a lifelong alcoholic. He is 39 years old in severe liver failure. 2 years ago, when cirrhosis first started rearing its nasty head after his daughter's birthday, he hasn't seen her since she was 2, she's now 16, so he went on a nasty binge, he was hospitalized, had severe mental impairment and almost died. My father, who thinks he knows everything about everything and was his legal power of attorney, got into an argument with a doctor or nurse about how my brother was being treated. In his anger, he demanded my brother be checked out so he could take him somewhere else, and they told my father that my brother would die if he was taken off his meds for even an hour. My father then said, then fuck it, I'll take him home to die. Luckily, my older sister, who does terrible with emergencies and anything medical, was there and she called me, freaking out. I raced to the hospital, convinced my dad not to sign him out AMA, and eventually, 2 weeks later, he was able to leave. But my father has a habit of making awful medical decisions on behalf of my brothers and mother. I am so glad I'm married to someone with a decent amount of common sense, so my father can't be my medical power of attorney if anything happens to me. I do not trust him. I remember the day I decided my stepdad would never be anything like a father. I was 12 and we were together at some banquet with a lot of his peers. They're talking about football and playing, so he lies to them. Stepdad tells them we play together all the time. Being a child, my response was immediate honesty, what? No we don't. His peers laughed at him for trying to impress them and getting found out by a child. So he takes me aside very quickly by death gripping my arm. I was maybe 4 inches and 60 pounds, not hard to do. He gets me out of earshot to lowly growl and hiss that I will never contradict him in public again. What a world little shit I was. Called me a pissant. He liked big or exotic words to try to seem like more than a high school grad turned car salesman. That's when I knew what I was to him and what he would be to me, nothing. Not believing in vaccinations. This was years back, think I was 13 to 14, friend was 12 to 13 at the time. I was hanging around with a friend named Alex and it was getting late, around 9 p.m. bit late to go on an adventure, but we decided to walk to Blockbuster, which is about half a mile from his house. We're walking along, the way to it is poorly lit, heavily wooded, and the path splits off into two, one goes high the other low. So we're on the way, we dressed as skaters back then, and we have a couple of chavs trying to mock us, so we ignore them and carry on. I notice the original two females have disappeared and two fellas have replaced them. I tell Alex, friend, to take the low path because it's much nearer to the shops and a housing estate, so if needs be we can yell for help. We're getting abuse hurled at us and we manage to get far ahead. I tell Alex to run to Blockbuster and get help. Security, he'll stay behind and distract them so he's safe. Well, I stop, let him go when I get jumped by these two grown-ass men. Alex is still within a quick run distance, so I manage to evade them, run behind Alex and yell run. He panics, runs off, and I get my legs swept from under me. Next thing, him curled up on the floor getting stomped on head, back, legs, until one of them decides I've had enough and they walk off. I limp to the shop. Alex is inside the shop. Apparently he didn't get help. I called my mum and had to beg her to come pick me up. I got taken to hospital, x-rays, police never bothered turning up. Couple of weeks later, Alex forgets this and decides to bin me off for an older lad because he was cool. So that's how I lost all respect for one of my so-called best friends. For Narendra Modi, I did not have any respect even to begin with. And that would go for anyone who has read up on what exactly he was doing as CM of Gujarat, plundering public wealth and handing it over to cronies. She was my school crush. 4 years later we were in different colleges in the same city, and she randomly texted me one day about her college event on Facebook, and we started talking a lot, like 20 hours a day for 2.5 years. Suddenly she gets a good job and she's like, listen, I'm way too busy to talk, and just stopped talking. She knew I liked her even then, cause I had told her about my feelings and wrote almost 80 poems about her, but I respected her choice, so I tried to be a decent friend living within my boundaries. I literally bought only the clothes she liked, ate what she liked, and slept at the time when she said to, cause she wanted to talk late at night. Now I've got a great college for masters and she left for Germany. It's been 2 years we stopped talking, but it still hurts. My best friends always used to warn me. She's not a great person, but I chose to see the brighter side. But maybe not everybody is meant to be around us. Friend 1 told friend 2's crush that he has got a crush on her. Friend of ours cheated on his wife, who had endometriosis and was unlikely, but not impossible, to bear kids, and had a kid with his mistress. He was a pathological liar. Continued to lie about everything afterwards, holidays to Las Vegas, being a flight risk and unable to fly because his fling was making accusations. Just tons of conflicting stuff to different parties. If he had just owned up to mistakes, we would have easily remained friends. I was married to the same man for 25 years. We had 4 children together. We got a divorce 3 years ago and have been on and off trying to make it work again. He has been talking to a lady from England online for the past 2 years, but says he wants to try with me. I just found out last Thursday, from my kids, that he flew to England to see her. I just want to know why he felt the need not to tell me. Every time I used to ask if he was in love with her, he would say no, she is just a nice lady he talks to. I have seen certain text messages that make me know she is in love with him. I am broken hearted. He will be gone for 2 weeks. I am sick to my stomach. Half the time, I can't function. What should I do? Anyone who believes the Black Lives Matter movement is about black lives. My boss forced me work on something that was extremely dangerous and I almost lost my life doing it. After I almost died, he yelled at me for not finishing the job. I finished the job, but I'll never ever respect a man who would rather save money and call a professional instead of risking my life. Apparently my life is worth about $200. I lost respect for the Reddit developer/UX team when for the first time I clicked on the empty area around posts and it threw me to the home page. She took back a cheating husband and dissed her kids for him, unamused face, thumbs down. My mom and sister told me they mourned me already. They were serious cause I haven't seen them in 7 years. When I was younger, my dad was an alcoholic. I'm not talking about bottles or so. No, he drank a whole 6-pack of beer every day. Soon he got stomach problems and later on started abusing my mom. She called the cops multiple times but never kicked him out. To this day I haven't talked to him since he got kicked out. Their mom. Someone I used to look up to as a mentor turned out to have a record of messing with kids. I couldn't see them in the same way anymore.